You've been dead since when? Like what year?
I've been in a coma since
01?
20 years, so since 2004.
Since so basically since what major like historical event would I tell
Yeah.
you about?
Yeah, there's a lot to pick from, dude. Like,
Obama
yeah,
becoming president.
really?
That's a major one. A lot of people got shocked.
Yeah.
And I mean, since you've been in a coma since 04 and you were 18 in 04, you weren't really expecting something like that. So
Exactly.
that's probably the first thing I would tell you about. And then I'd tell you about storming the Capitol.
Really? You would jump all the way to that?
Yeah. Only important things.
You wouldn't tell me that Donald Trump was
No,
elected president.
no.
The dude who hosted The Apprentice.
Could have seen that coming.
You're right.
Dude,
Okay.
something's
I
wrong with
respect
my goddamn dog. I can smell her fart, dude. She like crop dusted us, bro.
She does that to me all
I
the
know.
time, bro.
She does it to me. Oh,
You're a piece of shit, Stitch.
I just let her out too. She's just gassy. Oh well. Banger question to open the podcast.
It's all that Dorito Red 40 dye you've been feeding.
Facts. Can't be giving that to the dog. She just likes it too much.
Clint yesterday came up to me and he was like, "Do you think it's bad that I feed my dog like literal like pounds of Red 40, like straight just Red 40
She loves it, man.
a day?" And I was like, I mean, I could see how that could have some adverse health effects.
You see how she's white and black? She used to be only white. All that black's from all that Dorito dye. I don't know what it did, but it made it all black.
Do you?
I think it killed her hair particles, honestly.
She might be albino.
Maybe.
Do you think she knows we talking about her?
Yeah, she's staring right at us.
Maybe she's a skinwalker.
Hey.
I would, honest to God, truth be told, right hand on the Bible, would love to have something paranormal happen to me, even if it was like truly horrible.
Dude, me too. Just so
like I
would
don't
happen.
believe it.
Yeah, just so I would finally believe it, because I hear all those
Believe it.
stories and I'm like, okay, but that's never happened to me. So how am I supposed to believe it?
I could give two shits of a fuck about skinwalkers. You know, like even a lot of alien stuff. You know, like I've kind of become like the kind of person who will like, I'll hear about something like that and I kind of hate it about myself, but I'll be like, it's probably some military shit. You know what I mean? Like those drones that have been coming up from Jersey recently.
Yeah.
That shit's weird.
Anytime have you seen the video of the lady on the plane and she just films like a saucer going right past the window? I'm like, that, like, it could be alien, like we have no fucking idea, but it looks like a military thing.
Have you seen some of those government patents?
Like, exactly.
As early as like the 70s and the 80s, they were like coming up with like these crazy fucking like ideas for jet propulsion systems and this and that. Like,
and I mean, plenty of people have come out since then and been like, oh yeah, in Area 99 or what? It's Area 99, isn't it?
Area 51.
Area 51. Sorry.
Are you retarded?
Yeah, it might be.
Holy
It's been a long day, dude. I've spent like 2 full days on the computer, but
damn.
But anyway, at Area 51, a bunch of like scientists and stuff who may have worked there. There's no like, I don't know if there's probably ways to definitely prove that, but there's no way to tell if they're telling the truth, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people have come out and been like, "Oh yeah, we've done all this there." And it's
I
like,
really want to believe Bob Lazar, and a good part of me does. But then there's that part of me that's like, I don't know.
It's hard to tell, man.
I don't know, dude. Aliens just become like, the older I get, dude, I just like, I don't know what it is. I just don't believe in them as much. Like, I really do believe that, it's very likely that if life is a very plentiful thing in the universe, that we could be the first life forms within the universe.
Like,
if you subscribe to something,
I think you were talking about it the other day on a few episodes ago at this point, but fucking like, we could just be the first of it, and since we haven't progressed past the point of even being able to like be in touch with people as people, you know, like we can't even agree as a planet. How are we supposed to like excel past that? And I think I kind of agree with that. And like, maybe we are the only civilization, and it'll just keep going in that circle until somebody and like until we can agree to get out of the planet and do
Yeah.
other stuff.
And I don't know, dude. I think that's like, I think we got a lot of shit to deal with here before we start figuring out what's Mars laws gonna be like. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
know, dude.
didn't Elon say like by like 2030 something he wants 100 million people on Mars?
I call cap.
Yeah, there's no way 100 million people would go to
In our
Mars.
lifetime, I could totally see people like there's like a good sizable group of individuals, a colony per se, living on Mars. That'll be dope because like in our lifetime, we haven't really like for all of human history up until like few hundred years ago, you know, like there was always like something new to explore. There were always like
Yeah.
these mysteries of the world, like ooh, Antarctica, like all that shit, you know, like we don't have that here. I mean, we have like things like the ocean, but like
How far
you
can you
can't just
really
fucking hop on a boat and just like take like fucking a whole city of people with you and be like, we're gonna survive down there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
But we could do that with Mars. And
mhm.
that'll be really cool to see. And I think
think
that could be like a big thing that kind of like maybe could bring us closer together theoretically.
I think first off for like the 100 or maybe like 50 years, like the first 50 years that we're on Mars, that we've actually like colonized Mars, it'll be pretty much like the only people living there will be scientists, military people. What's that new like space military program? I don't even whatever
Space Force.
Yeah, they'll have all those guys up there
That shit gay as fuck.
and like
I
I
get
don't know,
it
like
because
rich people, I guess,
I
but
get the name Space Force because it's like Air Force. It's like
and it's
obviously Space Force, but I feel like they could have done something like
I always
way
just think
less
of
card.
Spaceballs when they do that.
I
When they say
always
it.
think of like there's this show I'm pretty sure on Netflix called Space Force with Steve Carell.
Yeah, I think that's the show.
Yeah.
I've seen plenty of clips about it. Yeah, with
Yeah.
Steve and there's another comedian on it too.
I just can't if 30 years from now I'm in a McDonald's and there's a dude in front of me and he's in like military clothing. And I'm like, "Oh, what branch?" He's like, "Space Force."
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
I wonder how people will think about it in like 100 years when it's been around as long as like all these other branches.
Probably normal.
Yeah,
Guy like me though, I'll never let that shit go. That shit'll always be funny to me.
yeah. I mean, well,
They could save the world on numerous occasions,
what?
and they would still be called Space Force to me, and that would still be so unserious
Well, my question about it is like, what exactly is their
to do right now.
yeah? What is their purpose?
Like, I mean, I
There's
guess
no alien invasions that they
there-
can fight off.
there's a such thing as like those like nuclear warheads that have the ability to like go up into space and then
Out of
go,
atmosphere,
yep,
yeah.
right back at their target at like supersonic speeds and
Like
shit.
destroy those, destroy asteroids coming to hit us.
Yeah,
But like that's pretty boring.
isn't that more of like a
That's like a one-person job.
general military job?
Yeah,
Like, isn't that like
that's like NASA's shit.
wouldn't that necessarily be like a coordinated effort between like Air Force and like NASA and like a bunch of other government
Yeah.
agencies? Like most of those big things are. See, Space Force would make sense once we are on Mars. It's like, yeah, we have some military guys up there.
Like holding down the fort up there.
Yeah, making sure that like the Japanese Space Force
Yeah,
guys and
yeah.
the Chinese Space Force guys don't get any funny ideas.
Yeah, see, it just didn't make sense to make it a thing now because there's no unless they have a
They're
base on
probably
the
just-
moon or some
They're
shit.
probably just trying to get ahead of the curve. That could be it.
Yeah, get enough people and like get them trained and get corporals and generals and whatnot.
Build it up before they need it.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things where it's like it's better to
Better to
it and
have
not
it.
need it than need it and not have it.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I mean, even still,
Dumbass name.
dumb name
I don't respect them.
still doesn't.
If
really
you're
make
listening
sense.
to this and you're in the Space Force, fuck you. Do
For
something fucking serious with your
Like,
life.
unless you're like a scientist, because that's the only thing that would make sense in the Space Force. is,
Even
like,
then, if you're a
scientist.
Space Force scientist as opposed to a regular NASA scientist, and I had to ask either of you any type of question about space, I'm asking the NASA scientist.
Yeah, me too. That'd be
No offense.
like-
Actually, full offense. Yeah, I
The-
totally mean it.
the
they need
first
to
and
change
only
that.
questions going to the NASA guy.
Branding when you're a military is super important, I think. And I hate to bring up this example, but look at Hitler, man. He had the swastika. He turned a symbol that was for the longest time associated with like peace. That's what the
Mm-hmm.
swastika was for like the longest time. I think it was some Asian symbol for like peace. And then he turned it into something evil. He had like names for the shit like the Third Reich. You know what I mean? Like he had that evil branding down. You know what I mean?
And now drawing it's basically a war crime.
Yeah, dude. Like that's some good brand.
Mm-hmm.
Say what you want about the Nazis.
They had it down.
They knew what they were doing when it came to marketing and branding. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
whoever the designers were,
yeah,
and
whoever
like
the marketing designer,
the creative visionaries
Yeah.
behind the whole Nazi movement. I don't agree with any of the other stuff, but for the vibe that they were going for in terms of like evil aesthetic, I think they killed it.
dude, they had like that Star Wars ass vibe, like the
Yeah,
Empire,
dude.
Yeah,
Like I'm pretty sure that's what the Star Wars Empire was based on. Like
I would
most
have
evil,
no idea.
most like evil things in media today, especially like Hollywood films and
Are
games,
based off
are
Nazis.
based off of Nazis.
Yeah, that's
dude.
true.
Nazi zombies, Nazi this, Nazi that. You know.
Well, I mean, even then, like just like regular shows in general, when there's massive armies, they're just
Yeah.
like they act the same ways that the Nazis
Yeah,
did.
they'll like march in formation
Yeah.
and shit.
Well, and they'll like segregate and do all that shit. And you're like, that's
Mhm.
exactly what like the Nazi. I mean, it makes sense to put it in movies because people relate to that.
Yeah, but still,
but it gets old.
good branding, you know. And if we're like, if the United States is really trying to pull the hood over everybody's eyes and play the good guy of the world, you know, I think they should be a little bit more creative with it. You know, Space Force, do something cool. Do something
What,
cool.
what would you call it? The space military branch. What would you call it?
I wouldn't use the word space.
No, I would do something cool like
Like, you know how like the National Guard is like called like the National Guard.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to like Air
Well,
Force.
how about, like,
Army,
how about-
Navy,
how about-
Marines.
How about the interplanetary?
Guardians.
No.
it's like a comic book.
That's like too serious.
Yeah.
It has to walk that fine line. I'm thinking like the Interplanetary Defense Force.
I was just thinking defense something, so that works.
The
Yeah.
Interplanetary Defense Force. I know it's a mouthful, but
IDF.
people are gonna IDF. Yeah,
Call it
people
IDF.
are gonna take the IDF a lot more seriously than
Space Force. Yeah, that's so
Space
true.
Force.
We might have just gave them a great idea. If in a few years they call it the IDF, we're taking a check from that.
Donald
Please and
Trump.
thank you.
We know you're about to be up in the White House. We know you've been making a lot of crazy decisions in terms of like who you're appointing to what recently. I'm just saying, we just fixed the whole Space Force thing. Interplanetary Defense Force sounds a whole lot better.
And I mean, to be honest, we fixed it in like 5 minutes. So
Give us
Give
a
us a job.
fucking budget. Give us that fucking tax money budget where we're like stealing from the poor, you know, and like, dude, we'll do a lot of cool things. You know, we'll show up every day. We'll sit there. We'll brainstorm. We will take the entire branding of the United States and we will take it up to 10. Like, I know, Donald Trump, that you want this country to be feared. Like, you want people to be shaking in their fucking boots. The biggest thing behind that is your identity, your socio-political identity. And me and Clint and I, we could take that up a notch for you.
we'll take it up 2 notches.
Hit us up. Hit us up.
Speaking of Donald Trump, I just saw I don't want to get too political, but it was interesting. He just signed like an agreement or a bill or some shit that's eventually gonna give like open up 100,000 jobs or something like that for Americans.
I wonder what kind of jobs though.
Yeah, that's what I
Because those
like,
could be
'cause
those like
when
shitty
I even-
Chinese factory.
I
fucking
even read the
jobs.
article about it, and it didn't say what kind of jobs. It just and I don't know what the company was that he bought, so I have no. I'd have to do research on what that company thing is.
Everybody's all like, bring the jobs back to America. But I don't think anybody's really considering, like, to a point, I agree with it. But I don't think anybody's really considering that we got rid of those jobs for a good reason.
Well, that's the thing. We got rid of those jobs to open up better jobs for people.
Yeah.
Like if people realize that they didn't have to, like you don't have to work in fast food. Eventually,
dude.
eventually robots and AI will be able to do that.
You'll
so
be able
you
to do
will be
other
open to go
The
do
government will
fucking
force to be
engineering or
kinda, like,
whatever.
make college more affordable.
Exactly.
Do this, do that, you know? Once AI becomes cheaper than paying a person every day their fucking living wages and food wages, there's one thing I do want to talk about. And
Hmm.
kind of, I watched a video about it today. Do you know what the medieval work week was like? You know how like right now we got 40 hours a week, you know, that's like the average 5 days a week, 2 days off, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah. That was invented as recently as 1600s, right?
Really?
The 17th century, yeah, in Amsterdam. Do you know why? Because that's
Mm.
when the work clock got brought into the general use. You know what I mean? So think about it like this. Like, so for the longest time, I don't know how we know this, but we do. So Stone Age times, right? Like back in the Dizzy when like most jobs were just like fucking like
Going to get meat.
going to get crops.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
jobs, right? You would show up to work on Monday, right? Whenever the fuck you wanted, because there was no clocks. How the
There
fuck
was
were you
no.
gonna
Yeah.
enforce everybody showing? So you would just waltz in whenever you want, usually around like early morning. You know, you get there and right away, the your employer will give you food, feed you breakfast, right? Because most up until like fucking recently, most poor people's wages, which is most of the working force, they only had so much they could spend their money on. And
Mhm.
most of their cost, like the living expense, was food. So employers pretty much like offered like, hey, we will take care of one of your biggest living expenses, which is food. That's like if today, right? Like
You
your
go into
boss offered to
work.
cover your
Yeah.
rent.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be so fucking.
Think about it like that, right? So you would show up, you would eat food, and you would chill for like 30 minutes, and then you would get to work and you would work for like 2 hours, and then you would go on like an hour break where they would give you more food, kind of like a lunch type of
Yeah.
thing. And then you would go work for another 2 hours, and then you would go on another break for like an hour. And guess what this break was? Nap time. This was commonplace throughout all of human civilization. Nap time. And then you would wake up, do a little bit more work, eat dinner, leave.
Dude,
And you would do that, like when it came down to it, minus all your breaks, you would only be working like 4 or 5 hours days. And you would only be
dude,
doing like
and we say we're born in the
5 days a
perfect
week.
time. I'd rather be
Okay.
born there.
Now listen to this. And even back then, right, people were complaining like nobody wants to work now.
I mean, everybody's
Yeah,
been saying that
exactly.
forever.
Yeah, for as long as work's been a thing, nobody's wanted to work, obviously. But get this, it keeps going like that all the way up until the 1600s. There's this one dude over in fucking Amsterdam or Britain, one of those countries, right? Either the Netherlands or fucking Britain. And the stock exchange, right, which was like kind of invented over in Amsterdam, Britain, shit like that, right? Like you would only be able to do it from like a certain time of the day to like a certain time of the night, right? And like there was like stuff like textiles and shit like that. That was like mainly like the work. Either you were like big money stock exchange or you were like fucking textile factory worker, right?
Yeah.
So there was this guy who would pay because clocks hadn't been like a big thing yet, right? There was Big Ben, there was like big tower clocks in the center of town, but that's it, right? These fucking company owners and like these bosses would go around and pay churches to ring their bells. There was this one guy who paid this church to ring its bell at 4 in the morning and then ring it again at 8 at night. 4 in the morning to wake them up for work and then 8 at night to tell them when to go to bed. Right? And at the time, this was viewed as completely like fucking, what the fuck? This guy's crazy.
Yeah.
Right? The only reason people let him do it is because he was paying these churches.
Yeah.
Right? He had the
I
money
mean,
to blow.
And
right?
now everybody has an alarm clock.
And then they introduced the work clock, right? Which never until this time, like the 17th century, were you able to like enforce your workers. Yeah, you have to be here by this minute.
By this minute.
By this minute. Every day was like broken up into like half hour, hour long sectors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You would show up. There was no need to like fucking say when the day's work had to be started. You would show up,
do the
and
work,
start, and then leave, right? And then the work clock got invented, and it was like, okay, if you're not going to show up at this fucking time, right? If you're a minute late, like these companies started like getting in with like the city governments to have the city governments issue fines to the workers if they showed up a minute late.
Ooh.
Right? Which even today you're like, holy fuck, that would be insane.
Yeah. If you got fined for being
by
late.
the city government, right? Like it was completely totalitarian. And then like if you showed up and you were like, yeah, I know I don't want to show up at this time, da 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 da, they'll just fire you. You know what I mean? Like these motherfuckers, like the clock reigns supreme. You know, and there's a whole YouTube video about this. You guys could all watch called Work. It's just called Work on YouTube. It's such a fucking informative video. And so this guy, he not this guy, but like the work clock really became like a huge thing. And what these bosses would start doing, right, is they would start fucking taking the work clock and turning back the time, right? So then they would be forced to work longer. You know what I mean?
Ah.
You know, and they would take the work clock and they would move it forward before they got there so that they would show up early and stay later and work more with getting paid less, right?
Did you ever try to do that in elementary school, except the other way around? Like if your teacher ever left the class, you'd grab the clock and try to switch the time. Me and my friends did it once at Central, and
Did it work?
I mean, no, obviously. I mean, the teachers aren't fucking dumb,
Yeah.
but it would have been funny if it worked.
Yeah, dude.
It would be funny if you could like change. I mean, I'm sure you can somehow, but it's probably pretty complicated. You probably have to have some electrical experience or something to change when the bell rings.
Oh, yeah.
So like everybody gets let out at
Well, I mean, I'm
an
sure there's
earlier
just like
time.
you do it through like, I'm sure there's just some like thing you do in the
There-
attendance office or
well,
something.
I'm sure there's a like server system that automatically pushes that out.
Nowadays.
You know what's so weird that I always found thought about Butte High
Hmm.
is that we don't have a bell there. It's like a ding dong. It was like a doorbell. I always found that so weird because every other school I went to it was a bell.
Yeah, when I went to Kennedy, I don't think we had them at Kennedy.
I had bells at Central, but they only used them for it was like either the end of the day or the beginning of the day to get you into the class. But they
You're in
never
the
used
same
them.
class. You're the
Yeah,
whole fucking
exactly. So
day.
it doesn't matter. And then high school had bells. The Central High School, the one year I went there, had bells. And then you switch over to Butte High, and it's like peaceful over there.
Beep, boop.
Yeah, it was like ding dong, ding dong.
Shut up, you high.
God, sometimes I miss it, but mostly
Fuck, I don't.
mo-
I
mostly-
don't. I don't.
Mostly, I remember hating being there.
I would rather do what we're doing right now than
True.
do all that bullshit. The thing about that is like, when I was in high school, the whole time I was in high school, I was like kind of like a fuck off student. So I was always like, there was always that thing in like the back of my mind that like, cause like I've always been doing this type of shit, you know what I mean? But like, I wasn't really taking it crazy serious and trying
Oh,
to
yeah.
establish it until a few years ago. And like, there was always like this thing in the back of my mind where I was like, the fun's going to end soon. You know what I mean? Like you being able to fuck off and be like, there was always like this, like kind of almost like existential dread in the back of my mind. Like, especially like once I got into sophomore year and really started fucking off, that like, this is all gonna end. You know what I mean? Fuck off while you can, but it's about to end. You know, and that was always sitting
Yeah.
there with me.
I wish I had that mindset because like I look back on it and like hear you talk about like some of the crazy shit you did in high school and be like, damn, I kind of wish I got into more like crazy shit because like being honest, after high school, I don't think I've used like maybe other than basic math and like history, the only thing I'm actually interested in is history. So like that's the only actual thing I found useful in high school.
Science is really beneficial, I think.
Really,
I think so. I mean, it's
I
good
mean, it
to know.
depends
Because
what
when you're in high
science-
school, you're taking biology and you're taking general science your first
Yeah.
year. I think general science is important because it's like,
biology.
It's
I
good
think
to
is
know.
important.
and biology, like everybody has a body, you know, like one day you're going to be old and you're going to want to know, have like a decent gist of what the fucking
Mhm.
doctors are saying to you. So you know if you have a good doctor or a bad doctor or anything like that.
Like my favorite classes in high school were like always like PE and health, like because that kind of pertains to what you were just saying. Is like
Yep.
you get to know your body a little better,
Mm-hmm.
and just history because I like history. I don't know. I just like mostly the Civil War shit. I love the Civil War.
I'm not a big Civil War guy. I'm more of like a old history type of guy.
Really, I found out
Yeah.
why I love the Civil War too so much too. That's like a genetic thing, I guess. I think my aunt was describing it to me. One of my uncles or my great grandfather, I can't. One of the greats, you know.
Yeah.
One of them was like a general in one of the first battles in the Civil War.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So apparently, like that when she said that, it kind of clicked. I was like, oh, that's why I like the Civil War so much, because it's
Yeah.
just kind of like built in there.
Yeah, you have a genetic memory of it.
Yeah,
I've been learning a lot about fucking Rome as a recent.
Really?
I know that's stereotypical as fuck, but
Rome's cool.
Julius Caesar, man, he was an interesting guy.
Oh yeah,
You know, like you gotta be a really special type of fucking crazy and like out there to like be talked about thousands of years later. You know, like fucking like in a very like deeply there's people walking around today that like historians and shit that like talk about Julius Caesar like they actually like knew him because like of how like fucking detailed like those historic records are of
Big-
ancient Rome and shit.
well yeah, it's just
All the
that
fuck
and
shit that
because
he
of
did was
just how
insane.
much shit he did. There's so much to write about.
Well, like
about
he
it.
low key took Rome.
Well, yeah,
I
he
don't
took
know.
over the.
I don't have the
whole thing.
best understanding of it, honestly, but like from my understanding, Julius Caesar pretty much took Rome and like fucking it was already booted it up even more, and then completely fucking like set the dominoes up for it to fall the fuck down. You know, like there was a point in time after Julius Caesar came back to Rome after he had just got done dealing with Spain. He went on like a few triumphs. It was like Spain and then a Asia Minor and then like North Africa, and then there's this other one that I can't remember the fucking name of that was pretty pretty important. But he came back and Rome was kind of in a shitty spot, like its Senate was all fucked up. So they pretty much would like the Senate at the time made like kind of like an agreement like, yo, so Julius Caesar doesn't come back and just like fucking rain tyranny down on us. We're gonna give him pretty much unlimited power so he doesn't feel the need to get it. So they gave him like a 10-year dictatorship, which was like unheard of. And they also gave him like a 5-year, like he basically like they gave him the ability to like pass laws, be the one who stamps them off.
Basically allowed him to run the country, so
Yeah,
he wouldn't
he had
take
complete
it
and total
over.
power.
Yeah,
And he would do these like triumphs where like fucking dude, he was a fucked up guy, dude. Where like this one he captured this like boy prince from this was like
Saudi.
no, it's like a country that doesn't exist anymore. It's like an old empire that doesn't exist anymore. I can't
He
think of the
probably
name. It's like
crumbled that
G, it started with like a G or something. But he brought like a 5-year-old boy prince back, dude, and he was gonna have him like fucking sentenced to death. But like everybody that was at the triumph, because what a triumph was pretty much like a
Gilgamesh.
like, yo, we successfully defended or gained new territory. Let's have a parade about it.
Yeah,
That's what a triumph is. So he was gonna have like this fucking 5-year-old boy fucking killed, and the crowd was like, "No, dude, you shouldn't do that." So he was like,
I'm
"You
gonna
know
do
what?
it anyway.
You know what? I'm gonna put him in a really good school," and he did. And it's just crazy. Like we can go back and like think about all that. Like in my mind, like I
Dude.
picture like with everything I've learned, I picture Julius Caesar as just like a regular guy who's just fucking off of one of like the craziest power trips in human fucking history, dude. Completely fucking like unfazed, dude.
Yeah.
Doing whatever the fuck he has his mind to.
I mean,
Julius Caesar.
definitely some sort of like serial killer in there, like to have all that power and just be like, meh.
Julius Caesar's personal wealth was so immense that when he got back from those like fucking
Triumphs and
yeah,
whatnot.
and all that, he gave every citizen in Rome fucking like 3 months worth of wages. And then on top of that, he started retiring a
Dude.
bunch of his soldiers. He gave like but at the same time that he was doing all that, like he's only doing that so he could gain public favor. At
Oh,
the same time that he's
obviously.
doing all that, dude, he's like taking all the Senate, right? Because at the Senate, like the Senate at any time in Rome would typically have like 300 something people in it, but at its max, it can hold like 800 something people, right? So like he just took that missing 500 and just filled them with fucking ex-soldiers and generals that worked under him. Just replaced him with a bunch of people like rich aristocrats from around Italy and fucking basically just stacked the Senate with people who weren't going to disagree with him.
Yeah. Smart guy.
Oh yeah, dude. Julius Caesar, man. Shout out. If that's like one guy who if I could have dinner with anybody living or dead, fuck, dude, I'd bring him back. Just be like, yo, like what?
What was going through your mind?
Yeah, dude, like
Yeah.
what like motivated you to like really go crazy like this, man? Like we talk about this thousands of years down the line. You're a big deal.
Yeah.
He's
Like,
still one of the most
biggest
famous
deals.
people to ever
Literally.
walk the earth.
Hmm.
And then you got like short guy Napoleon. We don't see people like that no more, man.
No.
The last one we really had was Hitler.
Did you watch that Napoleon movie with Joaquin?
No, I heard it was a lot of sex scenes.
That's what I heard. I heard it was a decent movie, but it just
I think
was kind of
that's
weird.
I think that's Ridley Scott, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ridley Scott's hit or miss, in my opinion.
I think he's always been like that.
He
Let me make sure it's Ridley Scott before we start talking
double
shit.
check, double check.
Oh, do.
Are we wrong?
I'm looking. It was Ridley Scott.
Look,
Yeah.
pull up Ridley Scott movies so we can shit talk him. He has some good ones.
He has been definitely good ones.
But is
The Martian is a very
The
good
Martian with Matt Damon's really
Mhm.
good.
movie. The old Blade Runner movie.
For the longest time, I don't know if anybody else, I might be the only person who thinks this, but did you ever watch The Martian and Interstellar around the same time for the first time? Because I
No.
watched Interstellar and then I watched The Martian. And you know how Matt Damon is in Interstellar?
Yeah, yeah.
And
It just linked
he's
up
in,
perfectly.
like that orange
Yeah,
suit.
yeah.
I thought for the longest time that like those movies were like secretly connected and like Christopher Nolan and fucking Ridley Scott like were like, yeah, like
I think I saw something about that. Like,
But then you're like,
That
then you
neat-
look into the names and it's like, oh, they don't match up.
Ye-
At
well,
all.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
fucking retarded.
Well,
But
even
the
then-
fact that he was wearing an orange suit,
I think there's a reason for that. I think Nolan had him wear that suit because right around that time he was also cast as the Martian. I think I saw something about that because I heard
I could see it.
I heard that theory that you just said about like Matt Damon showing up in there and then also being in The Martian like a year
always
later.
tripped me out.
But Ridley Scott also made the Alien movies, and those are very good.
Those are
So-
some that I've never really gotten into, man.
They're good to me. I like them. The first one and the second one
See,
are
I've
really
seen
good.
the first one. I might have seen the second one, but I haven't seen those ones since I was kids.
Yeah, the first one.
I know that they're still coming out, like that Alien Romulus.
I hear
movie.
that one's actually really good, but
Did you see they got that like fucking like 7 foot tall like fucking NBA player guy who looks like a goddamn fucking
like a
alien.
ghost.
One of the best
Yeah.
casting decisions I've ever seen in my entire life. Shout out whoever made that decision. You deserve a raise.
He
For real.
also made Gladiator, which is a great movie
I haven't seen Gladiator.
with Russell Crowe.
Who made 300? I want to know that. Was that Ridley? I don't think that was
I don't
Ridley
think so.
Scott. Somebody else made 300. This
Oh, Zack Snyder.
Sparta.
I love Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder.
You know what? Like, I like Zack Snyder, but the one thing about his movies that always kind of makes me a little upset is they're always kind of like not grayscaled. They're just dark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're just darker. Like not even like the plot of the movie. Like
That
the
Justice
actual
League movie looks like,
like-
fucking shit.
like the
It looks-
actual visual of it is just dark.
What I've always thought about that movie is like, have you ever seen like when people are like making movies or like just anything in cinematic like style generally, they'll film it in raw footage, like
Mhm.
which looks like super gray, like that, and
Like
then they'll
that.
color grade it
and
afterwards
make it look
add all
vibrant.
the color.
Yeah.
It looks like he just skipped that whole
know.
part of the process.
And I mean that's
the-
like that's his whole thing
I heard that one, like this Zack Snyder like fucking version of that movie, like Justice League,
is a
was
lot better.
actually really good.
Yeah,
but
it
it's
is.
still grayscale.
That's what that like he's great at like directing and making movies and stuff. I just don't like looking at some of the movies. Cuz like I also saw this picture of like the Man of the old Man of Steel movie. There was a
That
poster of
first
it.
one that came out.
Yeah, with Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
There was a poster for like the first poster ever released, and then they just released the poster for the new Superman movie that's coming out. And you look at both of them, and I believe Zack Snyder directed the Man of Steel one with Henry Cavill. And if you put both those posters side by side, you look at the brighter, more colorful Superman and you're like, I would rather kind of watch that movie because Superman's supposed to be a light character. And like I get what Snyder was trying to do with that Man of Steel movie. It was a good movie. It was a kind of darker version of Superman, obviously, but I also get why people don't like that it's so dark. You know what I mean?
You know what one of my favorite superhero movies would be if they did it better? Watchmen.
Watchmen is actually pretty good.
I
Like
just I
if
like it. It just felt like a little too convoluted.
that's how the comics are too. Like that's it.
Yeah.
That's how it was supposed to be.
Yeah. I get that. I get that like if that's like the direction you're going in, but like the whole thing about like superhero movies like Marvel movies and all that, like you don't like these superheroes, if I'm learning about a bunch of new superheroes, and then on top of that you're throwing like this like super fucking like stacked up plot at me, and there's like all these different moving parts and all these characters and all these backstories, like that movie like fucking took some energy out of me when I watched it.
Yeah,
Because
I
it's
can
like,
get that.
isn't it like 2.5 hours long or some shit too?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
long as
it's long.
fuck. I really liked it. I just wish they could have like done it a little bit better.
And I think Zack Snyder made that. No, he didn't. I don't think he made that. But that one's also a pretty dark scaled movie.
I
But
want to watch The Boys because The Boys, from what I hear, is pretty much just Watchmen, but like actually like
really fucking good.
really figured out.
Well, it's a series.
Fleshed out.
It's a series, so it's a lot easier to flesh out each of those characters.
If Watchmen was a series, which I know they did make a series of that recently, that I hear is garbage.
I don't hear it. Yeah, I hear it's not very good.
I'd watch it,
But you should watch The Boys. Speaking of that, The Boys is an amazing.
You've been telling me to watch it since it's come out.
Yeah, they're about to make their last season. It's fucking good. I like that show. I was gonna bring up another show and I kind of forgot what it was.
Oh, the Sick Dick show.
No,
The FRiED Files.
Was it
FRiED Fridays?
No.
Was it the
no.
Mr. Tuesday Happy Hour?
No. Oh, and speaking of that, oh wait, never mind.
This will come out in like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, so my video, well, go check out my channel, Mr. Tuesday on YouTube. I'll have by then 4 or 5 videos up on it.
Let's just finish this off with like a fat promo.
Like a really fat one. Like let's
Yeah,
promote
like really-
everybody's shit.
Maybe not that.
Just like
Fuck it, yeah. If you really give a fuck, if you're listening to this right now or you're watching and you really give a fuck about what we're doing for some reason, we're trying our best.
we're trying.
We'll have some more stuff coming
That's
out.
all you can really ask us to do.
We really appreciate everybody watching and supporting. We don't have a Patreon. We don't have a GoFundMe. We don't have a fucking website you could donate to. We're not like that. What
All
you
we
can
ask.
do is you can tell your friends to watch this shit. You can tell your family to watch this shit. I know some older people who love the podcast. It's very family friendly.
It's as simple as a few clicks of a button. You click like, you click subscribe, and then you, if you want to, click share.
Yep.
Send it to some of your friends.
He's got some gaming stuff going. He's going to be uploading every Tuesday by the time
It'll
you're
be-
listening to this.
By the time you're listening to this,
He'll have
there will
some
be
videos up.
4 or 5 videos up. So go check
Yep.
those out too.
I got some music stuff going on. I've got some on every single streaming platform you could fucking think of. Even this one weird one called The Palty, which sounds to me like what an Asian person would say a bad pussy smells like. Has that fish vibe.
It sounded like an Asian version of chicken. Like
yeah,
poultry.
to Palty.
Poultry.
Or like the Palty,
Ooh,
something like that. But go listen to that. SIKDIKMIK on all streaming platforms. I got my own personal channel that only has 1 video on it as of right now because I've been deleted before. Go follow Clint's Instagram. I'll throw it up. I'll throw it down in the description. Go follow all my Instagram. The FRiED links will all be on that link tree in the description. This next year, 2025, will be the biggest year for the FRiED Studios yet. We got some big plans.
It's going to be a big growth year for us. Hopefully
Yep.
by the end of the year, we'll have a lot of traction.
We got a bunch of people doing this shit with us. Landon Murphy, go fuck with his shit on SoundCloud. Colt Quinn, Colt Man Q, go fuck with his shit on SoundCloud. All that'll be on streaming services soon. Mania, go fuck with his shit on SoundCloud and YouTube. Vil.
He doesn't have anything out, but I believe he is going to start streaming
Yep.
soon.
So we'll throw that down there if that comes out by that time. Yeah. There's a bunch. There's Jess Goodwin that we run it up with. All the homies. Shout out my mom. Shout out Clint's mom. Shout out my family, Clint's family. All the homies.
Shout out everybody.
Everybody who's been supporting.
Everybody that comes up to us when we're just at the bar and shit and goes, "Hey, I like the podcast." We appreciate it.
It's chill, and we really like doing it. And we got some big plans for next year. And if you enjoy it, just support it. Tell everybody else to do it as well.
It'll be a fun ride.
Yep. So yeah.
Thanks everybody.
That's been the episode.
A little shorter one today, but fuck it, just me and Michael chit chatting.
Yep. We got some dope episodes coming up. Whenever you're watching this, we always got some dope episodes coming up. It's been a fun year. We're closing it out now, getting there. So yeah. Peace out, everybody.
Peace, but boys.